But I kind of have to wonder though what happened after the Big Bang.
Well, yeah.
Where the Doctor is all excited to go find an Egyptian goddess loose on the Orient Express in space.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, I guess he just kind of goes, nah, we're going to go on this, Star Trek spaceship kind of thing instead, which leads into A Christmas Carol.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be. Well, yeah, and well, that's kind of the thing is, it's weird because that phone call, that phone call doesn't quite perfectly fit. Because he talks about, what he says is something like, because he talks about that, like, oh yeah, an Egyptian goddess loose on the Orient Express. That's what he says. But before that, when he's on the phone and he's just having conversation, what he says is, I'm sorry, or no. What he says is, no, that's not possible. She was sealed into the 7th obelisk. I was at the prayer meeting. So that phone call implies that the Doctor knows exactly what this problem is. He knows exactly who this goddess is, and there was some kind of prayer meeting that he was at. And then this sort of is not that. And I guess...
Well, presumably there just wasn't a goddess, and it was just an attempt to lure him there.
Well, right. So, so maybe Gus has some inside knowledge on, oh, yeah, the Doctor did this thing with this Egyptian goddess. Let's pretend that this is the problem that is happening so that we can get him here. Yeah, so, I mean...
Yeah, so let's come up with something to lure him to the Orient Express in space, but just make sure to make it, Egypt-themed, just so it kind of matches...
Right.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
How did you feel about Mummy on the Orient Express?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I guess I liked it. I guess I want to say that I liked it. But I guess, I don't know. Everything this season has not been what I was expecting.
Well, what were you expecting?
Well, I wasn't expecting Clara to be there.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either, because unless I'm mistaken, she wasn't featured in the trailer.
Well, yeah, and I guess that may have been done purposefully for the purpose of saying of not reducing the impact of the end of Kill the Moon. Maybe they didn't want to make it look like, oh, in next episode everything's fine again. So maybe that was why they did that. But I still found it really jarring to see Clara there when I thought. And I mean, it's very quick. They very quickly get into still mad at you or whatever. Not even like I'm still mad at you, but yeah, we're ending it. This is our last thing.
But there's a minute or two where that's not clear.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was worried for a minute because I was like, oh, are they just going to pretend that never happened?
Right.
Did they change their minds about the episode order or something where this was supposed to come earlier? Or yeah. So I was very confused for just a moment, but then they sort of. Then revealed. And I'm guessing you're probably right. It was probably intentional that they left her out because they kind of wanted to leave it a surprise. And she also isn't in most of this episode anyway, because it is a Clara Light episode still.
Yeah.
They just did it by having her on a different set for most of the episode.
Right. Yeah. Locked in a train car for most of it.
Yeah.
Which is also weird because I don't think there's actually like a scene or a line of dialogue or anything where they actually say oh no, we're trapped. It just goes from the scene where they're going into that storage, that whatever baggage car. They go in through that door, and then the next scene is them trying to get back out.
You might be right about that.
Because I watched it. I watched it a couple times, and on my last viewing, I was like, there must be some scene that because the first time I watched it, I like briefly walked out of the room for a second. I didn't pause it, so I was like, oh, maybe I missed it in that second. But I sat for my third and final viewing. I just sat in front of my screen the whole time and watched the whole thing to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I don't think there was anything in there about them being. And I don't know. That could have been a scene that was cut because, it. I don't know if there was timing issues or whatever. That maybe things had to go. They had to like cut stuff out. And I mean, I guess, and you can infer that they're stuck. It's weird because I did think that I had missed something, but whatever. You gotta do what you gotta do to make the episode run on time.
And it was a little bit long, actually. It's 47 minutes. Which actually, some of the episodes this season have been kind of long, so I guess that's kind of par for the course. But I did get the sense that maybe there had been some cuts. Because this is something I tend to have an ear for, where it seems to me like a clarifying line of dialogue has been ADR'd in at the last moment. I think we've talked about that before, haven't we?
I think we have, yes.
Okay. So there's a point where the doctor says to the captain, how many people have to die before you stop, turning your back or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then a minute or two later, he says, it turns out that number is 3. Mm-hmm. But the line where the doctor actually says it is a kind of odd sounding ADR that's put over an establishing shot of the train in space. Which made me kind of wonder, was there a scene where he said that and it got cut, but he still had to say it to make that scene make sense? And yeah, so I was kind of wondering whether they did something like that. And if that's the case, then that probably does mean that this episode was cut a little bit for length. But I thought the whole episode still flowed pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I guess I kind of got the impression that they were trapped, even if they never had like a scene of them discovering that they are trapped.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that was the thing is, it's kind of this... Yeah, I feel like there should have been a scene in between, because they go in to explore and I guess find Maisie's grandmother's body or whatever. And then the very next scene is them like fiddling with the door panel or whatever. And that's obviously something a character does when they're trying to get out of a place that they're trapped in. So I mean, yeah, that sort of visual information was all there. The viewer could come to that conclusion fairly quickly. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's weird, and I want to say it's even weird because I feel like they don't even. There's not even like a line where they discover the sarcophagus. Like, I mean, there's a point where like Clara looks back at it, but I think that's the first time that you see it. Maybe? I don't know. Or
no, I think you see it as you come in, as they go into the room, don't you?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. That could very well be. I guess what I'm thinking of is that there should have been, and I don't think there was, any sort of line from like Clara where she'd be like, "Hey, that's weird. This is a sarcophagus," or something like that. I feel like there wasn't one of those. I don't know. That sort of seemed a bit weird. I don't know. But yeah, no, for the most part, I think the episode flowed pretty nicely. Didn't seem like there was anything that was out of place or weird.
But you didn't like the episode that much?
I don't know. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, like, I guess I like it just fine. It's just I don't know, cuz I mean, I said that, like, I don't know. I'm so conflicted on it. Like, I did like the premise, I guess, but like, I don't know. I guess it was really not what I was expecting. I'm going to say that. I don't know. I don't want to say I disliked it. Like, I mean, it still was a pretty enjoyable episode to watch. I don't know. This season is not going in the direction I thought it would.
I actually loved it.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the mummy was really cool. I thought Capaldi was really good in it. I thought I liked the whole I like the twist where the halfway through the Orient Express kind of drops the hologram and turns out to just be like a lab train or something. I just I thought it wasn't very complicated or difficult in the way that a lot of the stories this season have been. So I thought it kind of felt like a pause for breath.
Yeah.
So yeah, it felt to me like it was exactly the episode I wanted to see at this point.
Oh, wow.
In the season, and also from the impression that I had that Clara was not going to be in this episode, I was kind of hoping that Capaldi would get a chance to be a little bit more protagonisty than he has been, and I thought he did. I thought he was more protagonisty in this episode than he has been in kind of a while, and I thought that was very cool to see.
Yeah, that's true.
He reminded me a lot of Tom Baker in this episode, too.
Yes, he did.
He even did a Tom Baker impression.
Oh, like at what point? You're talking...
Or maybe I just misunderstood, but I thought during the scene where he's talking to himself...
I heard that too, actually.
One of the himselves was him doing a Tom Baker impression, whereas the other one was just him being him.
Yeah, actually, I heard that too, or I thought I heard that. But yeah, no, I actually loved that scene where he was just talking to himself. I thought that was really really fun and interesting. But yeah, I don't know, like, and I get, like I do like the plot, and I think it's I do like this sort of episode, and it was generally like fun. But like the thing I don't get, maybe I don't know, maybe I don't understand like the history here, but like has this been happening on the Orient Express for a while? Like, cause the guy, the engineer, Perkins, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
He says, or he implies that he's been looking into this thing for a while, and he's got, train schematics and like passenger logs for like the last 6 months or whatever. So that implies that it's been happening on the Orient Express for a while.
I didn't get that impression. I just got the impression that he was doing it sort of in parallel with the Doctor.
Oh, I see.
The Doctor and Clara show up on the train a while after the first murder.
I see. I got ya. So
I would presume it would be at least a few minutes, possibly a few hours.
Right. Okay.
After the first murder. So I don't think he's been doing it for weeks or months, but by the time he ends up sort of putting his head together with the Doctor, he's already made some amount of progress.
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right.
That was my understanding.
No, that makes sense. Okay. I get that now. All right. And that does make sense. Another thing, I guess, that maybe it's not that as big of an issue as I feel like, but like, so are we to assume, because what one of the things Clara finds is that there have been other ships that have had scientists on them that have been trying to figure out what's going on with the Foretold.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess they could have found nothing, but what Clara finds is that one of them, I forget which one it was, said that the result was promising, which I assumed to mean that they made progress on figuring out what the Foretold was, but maybe it wasn't. But it seems like that would be important information to give to your current team if the previous team gave their lives to come up with some information. It's weird how it's just kind of how Gus really doesn't like prep them for anything.
No, it seems like it's bad management.
Yeah, maybe that's just what it is. Bad management. Like
some of that info could be in the computers.
Oh yeah. And it could even be that there was a scene where they talked about what happened in previous ships, and that just didn't make the cut. For all we know. One of my favorite things in this episode was probably the fact that Capaldi has jelly babies in a cigarette case.
Yes, that was nice.
like that was just great how he just casually pulled that out and offered a jelly baby. Like, didn't even say like, what would you like, a jelly baby? Just opened his cigarette case. And I love even more how the guy Morehouse just kind of pulls it in without even thinking, or pulls it out, without even thinking, like, just like, this is a totally normal thing for someone to do.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. It's been a while since the Doctor has done anything with jelly babies.
Yeah. Well,
I know the second Doctor did it. The fourth Doctor did it more than anyone, and then the eighth Doctor did it.
That's right, in the TV movie.
Yeah, but I don't think any of the new series Doctors have had jelly babies, had they?
I don't think so. Yeah, and I remember that there was one of the sort of snippets of past Doctors dialogue that made it into the Rebel Flesh / Almost People was a soundbite of Tom Baker offering a jelly baby, but I don't think there were actual jelly babies there. So
none appeared on screen.
No, right.
Nor were they credited.
No jelly baby cameos. So yeah, this would be the first, and that's a nice reference, and that's a reference that definitely harkens back to the classic series, and I don't know. I like how it's just slipped in, and there's no explanation for it. Like if you're just a new series fan, you have no idea what's going on there, presumably.
Right, but I think it's fine.
No, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, this whole episode did also feel like it felt very sort of like in atmosphere. It felt kind of like a Fourth Doctor story to me.
Yeah.
Or at least like a classic Doctor Who story, and I guess the Fourth Doctor would be the most, the one that evokes most in my mind. But
yeah, I like that, and it really does kind of evoke that.
One thing about the episode that I thought was kind of strange is that the plot was almost exactly the same as the plot from The Empty Child. Or not necessarily the plot, but the resolution of the plot, which is that, this is just a piece of alien tech that has given this thing superpowers, and it just thinks it's doing what it's supposed to do, and there's a code phrase we need to say that will solve everything and resolve the problem, and in The Empty Child / The Doctor Dances, it's yes, I am your mummy, and then in this, I was reminded of that because of the mummy reference.
Right. Yeah, that was already there. Yeah,
right.
So yeah, that's true. That's a good point. There is kind of a similar thread running there, and I guess maybe that was obviously that line could have just been inserted because it's appropriate, but it could have also been a conscious choice on behalf of the writer to say like, yeah, there are similarities here. Let's put in a reference. But yeah,
it seems kind of strange to me though that all of these future or past or forgotten warriors or whatever had all this tech, like,
well, yeah,
and then all these strange supernatural things start happening, and no one ever thinks that everyone thinks it's like very odd and mysterious, and no one realizes this is actually pretty standard in terms of the technology we use to fight our wars.
Well, yeah, so like, yeah, because it's an ancient, so it's an ancient warrior, and it's got this tech in it, and part of the whole goal of the exercise is they want to harness this. They want to figure out how the mummy is doing this, and then harness this power.
Right.
But it should already be like they already have all the concepts. They have. Presumably they have teleports, and presumably they have, I don't know, they know about moving energy out of phase. So it seems like they have all this, or it seems like they should. I mean, I know that there are cases where, like, there are technologies that, ancient civilizations used that we're not quite sure how they did it nowadays. Like, I don't know, like, it seems like I seem to recall that, like, no one, or if there's an explanation for how exactly they were able to make like the pyramids of Giza, like I don't know if that's like if we know exactly how they did that. Presumably,
aliens, right?
Well, right. Obviously, they used aliens. So this all fits in, But no. So I guess that could be. It could just be that like this tech is part of a civilization that died off a long time ago. And all the records were destroyed, so we don't know how they did this. But yeah, it seems like it's a combination of technologies that are all pretty well established in the universe as just being things that exist.
Yeah, you'd think.
Maybe they were hoping it was something better than it was, like because
they wanted like actual mummy magic.
Right? They wanted mummy magic. Well, they got because obviously. Whoever corners the market on mummy magic, you're going to have...
magic mummies.
A magic mummy monopoly. But yeah, so maybe they were... Yeah, I guess they must have just been hoping there was some kind of... It was just going to be this really unstoppable thing. You could... If you could harness this power, you could have, like, perfect assassinations or whatever, probably.
Yes, we don't even know who this is.
You mean
who's doing any of this stuff? We don't know who Gus is.
No, we don't.
And I wonder whether that's supposed to be like a setup that relates in some way to the ongoing story of the Promised Land and or etc. the Nether Sphere or whatever.
Right.
Because the Doctor does mention that the Orient Express thing that Gus tried to reach him on the TARDIS phone, and you know how hard it is to call that number, right. Which of course I was intended to sort of tie up the loose end that was introduced in at the end of the Big Bang.
Right.
So, in addition to doing that, it also seemed to imply that it had something to do with the fact that the Doctor's phone number is out there and there's the woman in the shop, etc.
Right.
But I kind of have to wonder, though, what happened after the Big Bang,
well, yeah,
where the Doctor is all excited to go find an Egyptian goddess loose on the Orient Express in space.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, I guess he just kind of goes, "Nah, we're gonna go on this, Star Trek spaceship kind of thing instead," which leads into A Christmas Carol.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be. Well, yeah, and well, that's kind of the thing is, it's weird because that phone call, that phone call doesn't quite perfectly fit. Because he talks about, what he says is something like, because he talks about that, like, oh yeah, an Egyptian goddess loose on the Orient Express. That's what he says. But but before that, when he's on the phone and he's just having a conversation, what he says is, "I'm sorry," or no. What he says is, "No, that's not possible. She was sealed into the 7th obelisk. I was at the prayer meeting." So that phone call implies that the Doctor knows exactly what this problem is. He knows exactly who this goddess is, and there was some kind of prayer meeting that he was at. And then this sort of is not that. And I guess,
well, presumably there just wasn't a goddess, and it was just an attempt to lure him there.
Well, right. So so maybe Gus has some inside knowledge on oh yeah, the Doctor did this thing with this Egyptian goddess. Let's pretend that this is the problem that is happening, so that we can get him here. Yeah. So I mean,
so let's come up with something to lure him to the Orient Express in space, but just make sure to make it like Egypt themed, just so it kind of matches.
Right. Because you don't want him to go in thinking he's going to be dealing with like an ancient Mesopotamian, goddess. You wouldn't want that. You want to make sure that
there's got to be a hint.
Right. He's got to have the right mindset going in. So yeah, I'm not like really bothered by it, because this was, I mean, like that original phone call did seem like some kind of ridiculous premise that's just like a throwaway line, like, oh yeah, there was this one time where there was this Egyptian goddess and we locked her into the 7th obelisk at a prayer meeting. Like it just seems like that right there seems like a ridiculous thing that is just supposed to be just this throwaway line, and I never expected to actually get an episode centered around it. So I'm not bothered by the fact that it didn't live up to my fake expectations.
It was interesting though, because it was a very different time when that episode aired.
Yeah.
And people's sort of understanding of the Moffat era as opposed to the RTD era was very, very different. And so a lot of people read that as a sort of put down towards the RTD era. Like, oh, this is the kind of ridiculous plot that RTD used to do.
Right.
Which is also something people said about the opening shots in the 11th Hour, where the TARDIS is, careering across the sky in London.
Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't that shot after, or maybe not? Yeah, wasn't that shot after? Like, because they needed, like, I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering this, or maybe I'm taking speculation as fact. But I thought in my head that, like, they had filmed that scene after, when they felt like there should be some sort of transition or something. I don't know.
That might be the case.
I don't know. I could also be just making it up, but yeah.
But yeah, these are the kind of things that people read as, I don't know, it's like jokes at the expense of the previous showrunner, which doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I'm just kind of reminded of that, the fact that people talked about it as though it were that way, when, I mean, there are all kinds of silly things that happen in the Moffat era. In fact, I'd say the Moffat era sometimes gets sillier than the Russell T Davies era.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I feel like I don't even think that that's something that is exclusive to just the RTD and Moffat eras. I mean, like, I feel like the show's always kind of been that way, you know?
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like... And I mean, yeah, the whole famous vessel, but in space.
Yeah. It reminds you of the Voyage of the Damned, I think.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, all right, obviously that's it seems like a very specific reference to that. But even so, I mean, that's not... I don't feel like that's even... And even if it's a joke even if it's a joke about the Russell T Davies era, which I don't think it could be, but even if it were, I mean, it's not like I don't feel like it's like a put down or anything. No. I think it's just like a nod, like,
Yeah. I don't think it was anything.
Well, right.
But I was just remembering that was a large segment of fandom. These were the now there are Moffat haters, but back in the day there were the Russell T Davies haters.
Oh, of course.
And so they were obviously like pleased as punch that Russell T Davies was gone from the show forever, and so they were kind of reveling in what they thought of as a sort of yeah kind of thing, which doesn't make any sense. But the fact that throwaway line has now come back and is the basis of an episode just kind of reminded me of that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It does seem weird. And I mean, I know that, I mean, it does definitely seem like Series 5, a lot of Series 5, maybe not a lot, but a good chunk of Series 5 was sort of trying to, I don't know, tell the viewer that this was something different, maybe, or trying to move in a different direction. And I feel like that's not like, I don't feel like that's like saying something negative about the past. I mean, I guess you could read it that way, but it just doesn't, I don't know. People will see in it what they want to, I guess.
I presume they will.
Yeah, it's weird how little we knew in Series 5, because, there was... And it's weird watching that scene again, because I actually did watch that scene again.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I just, for whatever reason, I don't remember how I watched it. Anyway, all they know is that the TARDIS exploded. They don't know who exploded it. And there's and the Doctor even mentions the silence, and he's like, oh, that's still out there or whatever. And it's so weird to think that there's all that stuff that it was so you just knew so little. I don't know. It was a simpler time, I guess. I don't know. And that's really weird, because that's kind of, because you never really got that in the Russell T Davies era, where you never got these like really long and drawn out like clues and stuff, or at least I don't think. Like, really, you started off the season, there was a hint that something was gonna happen, or something big was kind of coming, and it would all be wrapped up in the finale. That generally seemed like how it was. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting some overarching plot that didn't follow that pattern, but I feel like that generally was how it was.
Yeah, it did pretty much. I mean, there was no sense after. I mean, the only one thing that kind of seemed in a finale to gesture toward something that was coming in the future was in Series 1. You had all of a sudden Jack, who had died, wakes up having been left on the space station by Rose and the Doctor. So that kind of seemed to signal there's more. Stay tuned. There's more to come next year, or something along those lines. But I think that's the one thing, really.
Well, right. And so the next time we saw Captain Jack would have been in the Series 3 finale, right?
Well, I mean, the next time would have been in Torchwood Series 1.
Well, okay.
If you watched Torchwood.
Right. So he was revived with the intent of, like, let's give him his own show. Was that, like, the intent, or did that come after?
I have no idea what the intent was, to be perfectly honest.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't even really, like, think of that, because I don't think I watched that in order. I feel like I watched, because I guess I was a bad fan when it came to Series 1 through 4, and I feel like I watched them sporadically, and I feel like I must have, or I could have seen the Series 3 finale before I saw the Series 1 finale. And I think that when I saw the Series 1 finale, I was maybe confused at first to see Jack die, or maybe I thought, like, oh, he's not really gonna... Or maybe I thought, I don't know, it's weird. I can't remember if I expected him to be immortal in that episode. I couldn't have. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I know for a fact that I did not watch series 1 until pretty late, I want to say. I feel like, because it's so spotty, I don't know. But I feel like I must have watched the series 3 finale before I watched the series 1 finale. I don't know. It's very weird.
Well, that's not okay.
I know it's not okay. I feel bad even saying it. No, I don't know what was wrong with me.
Where do I start? No, yeah, but no, I think for the most part there was never any like for series 2 and series 3 both have a thing at the very end that leads directly into the Christmas special. But there was never like, stay tuned next year for the story arc, which is going to pick up where this story arc left off.
Right.
And yeah, whereas that was, I mean, with the Moffat era, there were all these things that were left hanging.
Yeah.
For a long, long time.
Well, yeah, and it's also weird because it really is that one line where the Doctor brings up two things. Like, he says, "We don't know who blew up the TARDIS, and the silence is still out there." And those are the two things that he talks about. And it's weird that we spent an entire season on the silence and what they were about. And the only time where you discover who blew up the TARDIS is in the final episode that Matt Smith is in. And I mean, I guess technically
and a bit of throwaway dialogue.
Right. And I mean, technically you could have figured it out on your own. And I kind of had figured before we saw the Christmas special, I figured like, we're never going to get an answer to who blew up the TARDIS. It was probably the silence somehow.
Well, I think by that point, we had all kind of figured out. All right, so presumably it was just some kind of silence plot to kill the Doctor before he ever got to Trenzalore.
Yeah.
Which turned out to be basically true.
Right.
It was some other weird branch of the silence, but the same weird branch of the silence that you saw in Series 6.
Right.
Yeah, the whole thing's a mess.
Yeah, it really was. but yeah, so we ultimately did get those answers. But yeah. So and kind of tying back in, I wonder if Gus is related to the whole thing with heaven or whatever, or if it's its own thing, if it's its own. Because in my head, it doesn't. Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, because more or less everything before this, every reference we've gotten to heaven has all of the references have kind of been connected to each other. I mean, like, you get the people who die, they go to heaven and they meet Missy. Then there were the references to the Promised Land, which weren't necessarily heaven until in what was it? The Caretaker, when the guy who's interviewing the police officer says, like, oh, well, there's a lot of names for it. It's the afterlife, the Promised Land, whatever. But I prefer the Nether Sphere, or whatever. And so at that point, it kind of everything was tied together. But then there's this. But this doesn't seem to fit in that, unless it's somehow related by way of the fact that this soldier was apparently immortal, or ostensibly immortal.
Could be.
I don't know what that would mean, or what that could relate to, but I mean, it is kind of related, I guess, or anti-related in that he was a soldier who couldn't die, although he does die at the end. And now I'm imagining this great scene that got cut where the mummy appears in heaven and Missy's talking to the mummy, and I really wish I could have seen that.
If only. Well, yeah, I mean, because there's the Missy Heaven Nether Sphere Promised Land thing. Then there's the woman in the shop thing. Mm-hmm. That's also kind of ongoing.
Yeah.
And the only other ongoing plot thing that's dangling out there is Gallifrey.
Right.
And I guess I don't know whether we should add Gus to that list.
Right.
Or should we just chalk it up to? I mean, the writers just didn't feel like coming up with a better explanation for what his deal was, so they didn't. Right.
Well, and it does seem like there is this kind of operation that's going on, but we do get more or less all the information we need. We know that it's this mysterious corporation or whatever, and it doesn't need to have like a backstory for it itself. But we know that they wanted to harvest this tech or whatever, this method of killing people. We know they wanted to harvest that, and they had tried in the past and they couldn't, and now they're trying here on the Orient Express. And that's more or less all you need. I mean, unless you want to explore what this mysterious corporation is or whatever, which you could do, but I don't think you need to.
Okay, well, then we won't.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine either way.
Yeah, I mean, like, if they want to explore it and if it's something interesting, then by all means, go right ahead. But I don't feel like I'm not going to be upset if we never come back to Gus and we never find out who is behind Gus. Like, I don't need that.
So, what do you think about Clara?
I'm so confused about her. I don't know, cause, well, I guess I mean, like, I don't know, like, I know we sort of talked last week about Doctor Who going places that we didn't necessarily want it to go, but like the idea that Clara is some kind of addict is like,
well, that's a word that I heard a lot of fans talking about in the past few weeks.
Right. Like they're like they like this is like the sort of, yeah, like this is the sort of, manipulative behavior and just the sort of dependency issues that you get with addicts and stuff. And yeah, so I guess in a sense, yeah, this sort of fits, but it is like crazy dark. Like, yeah,
I have heard some criticism of this episode saying that that Clara's concerns from last week are dismissed way too easily.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's definitely the point. I think we're meant to be very troubled by that.
Well, yeah. Because that is, I mean, like, that's the thing is, it was really confusing at first to see her still with the Doctor. And then, you get that final scene where she basically lies and says, oh, no, it's fine. We'll just keep knocking around like we have been. Like, it's such an addict thing to do. And it's like scary.
Yeah. At this point, I would be very surprised if she didn't leave the show by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because this does seem to be a leaving arc.
Oh yeah. I agree. I think it can't. I don't think it can end in any other way. Or at least I don't think it'll be satisfying if it ends any other way, because this is like a huge problem. The fact that Clara can't quit, the Doctor or whatever, this can't just, resolve itself. I mean, the whole point is like, and it sort of reminds me of Martha leaving the Doctor. Is, like, if Clara stays for another season or whatever, you're kind of always going to be wondering, like, well, is she still an addict? Like, that's kind of like, you can't resolve this any other way. Like, once you've established that a character is addicted to something, you can't just have them go, like, especially when it's when what they're addicted to is like the premise of the show. You can't just go back to them participating in the premise of the show without wondering whether or not, well, and there's no, like, I mean, you're never, I mean, I guess to some extent, I mean, there's like therapy and stuff, but like you can't really just, it's really, really fuzzy when it comes to like addictions. Like, you can't just, it's like, well, I'm only going to use heroin every now and again, It's like you can't do that.
No, this just very much feels like it's the leaving arc.
Yeah.
Although Amy's leaving arc took quite a while.
That's true.
If you like consider it as having started in the God Complex.
Well, right.
And then basically it's just a slow, kind of back and forth up until the Angels Take Manhattan, which was over a year after the God Complex.
That's true. That's true.
So I mean, I guess we could be we could just be watching this very slow, drawn out process,
right,
of something eventually happening. But no, I don't. This is I don't think this is headed for a happy ending of any kind.
No, and to be honest, I would be upset if it did and it come to a happy ending, because I don't feel like that would adequately address the issues that they're bringing up here. And and yeah, I would prefer these issues to have not been brought up, but like now that they are brought up, I feel like they have to be resolved in a satisfying way, and I don't think a happy ending would be satisfying like that. So yeah, I feel like it's got to be working towards that. It's got to be working towards a goodbye, a farewell, or whatever. It's got to be.
Or a death.
It could be, and that's the thing is, the whole heaven thing does feel like, well, I mean, and that's kind of the thing is, like, is Clara going to die and go to heaven, and then the doctor's going to, like, I don't know, and this is like, and like how he copes with her loss is like by trying to break into heaven to I don't know, get her back or whatever. Like,
I don't think I'd like that, because I mean, why didn't he do that for Adric?
That's for
why didn't he do that for Sarah Kingdom? Why not for Chameleon?
Oh my God, they need to go back and save Chameleon. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. How awesome would it be if like Matthew Waterhouse had a cameo in heaven, where he's like, just like, I don't know, if he asked the doctor if he was right.
I recently listened to a Big Finish audio that made me really mad.
Oh, really?
The Boy Who Time Forgot. They retconned Adric's death.
What? They can't do that.
Instead of dying, he gets sent to like an alternate dimension kind of thing, where he becomes the king of the Scorpions, and he turns into this evil bad guy. So Matthew Waterhouse isn't in it.
What?
And it's this old guy. This is a spoiler, I guess. I don't know. There's possibly someone listening to this episode who hasn't heard The Boy Who Time Forgot, but it was really bad.
Okay.
And he meets the Doctor and Nyssa again, and he's like super old, and he tries to like get his Scorpion minions to kill the Doctor and take Nyssa for his bride, and it's all very strange. But in the end, he dies, and he knows he's right.
Well, at least he has that going for him. I'm like, that's terrible. And I mean, I don't want Big Finish to be canon anymore.
I know, it kind of breaks the concept of canon, because if you accept that there is a canon and Big Finish is in it, you have to accept Adric the Scorpion King.
That's terrible. That's terrible. They need to have a later episode that retcons that, and just say that that's a dream or whatever. That's just the Fifth Doctor still not coping with Adric's death. Like, so he has this dream about Adric the Scorpion King. Well, and maybe that's how the Doctor does cope with, his guilt over the deaths of the innocents. Is he has to sort of in his mind retcon it by saying like, oh well, they were all evil, or they were going to become evil, given enough time, or given being sent to an alternate dimension where there are scorpions that you can be king of. Yeah,
this is how it's explained on Adric's Wikipedia page. Adric appears in the Big Finish Productions audio drama, The Boy That Time Forgot, and is portrayed by Andrew Sachs, where he was unintentionally saved by block transfer computations subconsciously sent to him by the Doctor during a seance. This caused him to be sent into a pocket dimension based on an Aztec jungle, populated primarily by giant scorpions and insects. Kept alive for centuries by the computations, Adric was eventually reunited with the Doctor and Nyssa when they sought the TARDIS after its theft by Thomas Brewster in The Haunting of Thomas Brewster. Driven insane by centuries of isolation and bitterness, Adric refused to accept the Doctor's attempts to make him realize that he was now just essentially an elderly teenager, complaining when he didn't get his way, and believing that the world should jump to his every whim, attempting to force Nyssa to become his bride. The Doctor admits that he permitted Adric to die only for Adric to forgive him and use the last of his strength to send his friends home and recover the TARDIS before dying himself.
That sounds like a really bad fanfic.
It's awful. It's really bad. I think it's one of my least favorite Big Finish audios, possibly my least favorite.
Oh man, that's like, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine if Uncle Ben got sent to a pocket dimension, and then like Peter Parker ended up finding him, and then he was this evil guy. Like that's almost like the level we're talking here. Like you can't do that. That's not okay.
Even the cover art is really bad.
Does it feature like a picture of Adric, but it's like photoshopped to make him look old?
Well, no, because the fact that Adric is in this is a secret.
Oh.
It's supposed to be a surprise. Oh. So people bought this without knowing what they were getting into.
Oh man.
People put money down on this. It said, Peter Davison and Sarah Sutton in The Boy That Time Forgot.
Oh, that is bad cover art.
I wonder if Matthew Waterhouse knows about this.
Oh man.
Because recently he started working with Big Finish.
Oh, did he?
So now he did a couple of things as Adric, and he's also done a couple of other things with Big Finish, some of which is not Doctor Who related, but working with kind of other things with them. Huh. So I wonder if anyone's ever told him.
Well,
hey, by the way, Adric didn't die. Well, he died, but he didn't die in Earth shock. You see, there was this whole. I wonder if he knows.
Oh man, that's got. I mean, like, I would not want to be the person to tell him. Is the thing, but like, well, now does Matthew Waterhouse sound at all like he did as Adric? Because I mean, like, he's pretty young.
I haven't heard it. I haven't heard his recent performances with Big Finish yet. So, they were very well reviewed, but based on the trailer, I thought he sounded awful.
Oh, okay.
But the reviews were good, so maybe the trailer just gave an inadequate impression.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, this is terrible. I just can't.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
I don't remember how we got on this topic.
I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Oh, heaven. Adric in heaven.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so no hope. Well, yeah, we could see Adric in heaven, but he'd be this horrible villain.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would completely erase the story from canon, and we can't have that.
No, it's got to be a part of it. You have to, Doctor Who is a pile of good things and bad things, and then the good things don't necessarily spoil, or the bad things don't necessarily spoil the good things. But I don't know how that line goes. But bottom line is we got to keep this as canon. As horrible as it is.
Sad thing, but yeah. Yeah, so I don't know whether Jenna Coleman is even in the Christmas special.
Oh.
I think there had been indications that she would be, but there were also indications that Matt Smith would be in Series 8, so.
Yeah, and I feel like it would not be obviously Clara has to leave, or at least in my mind, the only way to resolve this is she's going to leave or die. And I feel like that's the only way I can, as a viewer, that's the only way I can imagine it ending. But it would also be weird, I think, to have Series 8 end and then have it left hanging, have her departure or whatever left hanging to happen in the Christmas special. And I mean, I guess it could not, and it could not happen in the Christmas special either. But it just seems like, I don't know, it feels like this needs to get wrapped up this series. I don't know.
Well, the Christmas special is only a month or two after.
Oh, that's true.
The finale, so.
Yeah, wow. That's like the first time.
So I think it almost makes sense to have a lead into the Christmas special.
Yeah. So yeah, the Christmas special is centered around that issue, and I guess that does kind of fit because obviously the finale is going to cover heaven. Maybe it would be asking too much to try and cram in both the resolution about heaven and also this issue with the Clara with Clara's relationship with the Doctor, and that sort of tension there. It might be too much to try and do both. So
we shall have to see.
I guess we will. I
like the countdown effect in this episode.
Yeah, it's Well, and the amazing thing is, I like that they did that, and I like that they edited it together so that it is actually on screen 66 seconds. Like, it's edited together so that the death actually does happen, because that's the sort of cliche for like action movies or whatever. There's a countdown and it's never accurate for like the stuff that's happening in between the times where you see the clock or whatever. But this is above and beyond that by just slapping the clock up there, and you never don't have that. It's never not there. So you're seeing the running countdown happen. And I like that. And I feel like that's, maybe it's showing off, like saying like, yeah, we're so good at editing that we got it to actually happen in 66 seconds every time. But it's also just kind of a cool thing, and it's, I don't know, I like that little, that idea, that concept.
Yeah, that must have been hard to script and to edit and direct for.
Yeah. Well, and what in my head, I'm like, the way I thought that they might do it is that they establish everything that needs to happen. And I guess the hardest part is scripting it all so that because you definitely don't want to cram in more stuff into the death than 66 seconds could contain. But if you need to pad it, you could just have more shots of like the mummy shuffling. And like, and that's like kind of what I was thinking, was like, all right, so there's a bunch of scenes, and with every death, there is like a scene, or rather, there is like a shot where you see just the mummy sort of ambling towards the victim. And like, all right, if you needed to pad that out, you could just, I imagine they recorded, several seconds longer than they needed, and they could have just padded it out by just letting it run. And so I could see that maybe that's how they worked it around, like, because I can't think of it any other way, like, because it's exactly 66 seconds every time. So that's...
Yeah, I don't think they want to do too much mummy shuffling, though. Just like 50 seconds of mummy shuffling. Right. Uninterrupted. That'd be a little much.
Yeah, it's true. It would. Although, yeah. So yeah, they gotta do their best. They gotta do their best to fill that time. But yeah.
Although that would be exactly what the person who is marked for death would be seeing.
Right. It would be completely accurate. You just have a shot of the person looking horrified and like stumbling away. Then you get a shot of the mummy creeping closer and maybe like growling a little bit or whatever. And then you get another shot of just the person horrified again. And you just keep cycling back and forth between those two shots until 66 seconds elapse.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that.
Yeah. So there you go. It's this dedication to realism and accuracy that really I love about Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. It's my favorite part of the show.
I know. It's great. I do kind of have a beef with this train, though.
What's your train beef?
My train beef is that for utterly no reason, this train sure does swerve a lot and turn pretty sharply.
It's on, what does the Doctor call them?
I don't know,
hyperspace something?
Hyperspace ribbons or something?
Yeah, so maybe there's just hyperspace ribbons that are doing that.
So you think the hyperspace ribbons can't be designed to go in a straight line?
You think they're designed rather than naturally occurring? I don't know.
I assumed, because train tracks are not naturally occurring, I assumed hyperspace ribbons were man-made as well, but I guess that might not be true.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what a hyperspace ribbon is. I don't know why hyperspace needs ribbons.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I can't argue with that. These are just
I just don't know very much about hyperspace.
That's true. Although I imagine it would be like if these are naturally occurring, it would be really, or I imagine it would not be very. It just seems very unlikely that these ribbons would go someplace you want to go, like unless maybe it's like cobwebs or something, like where a cobweb is going to connect two walls or whatever, or like the like two lamps on the chandelier or something. Maybe hyperspace ribbons naturally form between civilizations, like there's some sort of psychic link there or something. I don't know. I'm making all of this up, but I guess this has to be my hyperspace ribbon headcanon.
Yeah, roads in the real world turn and stuff like that. They're not always straight.
Well, but they do that because of the environment.
Well, I mean, maybe there's a hyperspace environment.
Oh, I guess that could be.
Or maybe they have to, like, watch out for gravity or radiation or something. Or
yeah, no, I figured at the very least you would have to have a couple turns in there to dodge planets and planetoids and solar systems and whatnot. But I just didn't. It just seems like it's really kind of swerving back and forth. Like, it makes like a bunch of S shapes. And obviously this is all for establishing shots where, like, yeah, doesn't this look cool that this train is just in space swerving all around? But I don't know. It just seems like kind of impractical. And I don't know. I mean, like, wouldn't that be really... It just seems like that would be really disturbing to the passengers, that they're kind of, like, being thrown around. But I guess they could have some sort of tech that, I don't know, they have their own gravity field or something or other. I don't know.
Probably.
I guess that's what we got to say.
They're probably fine.
Yeah, one would think. There's also stuff, I mean, like, you hear, like, I don't know what they are, like there are, like, railroad signals that you hear passing by, which I guess I just chalked up to, like, when the doctor was saying, like, oh yeah, this is an exact reproduction, and, you know, there's been a great attention to detail. I just kind of imagined, like, oh, I guess the railroad signals are part of that attention to detail. Like, they've got, like, synthetic sounds of railroad stuff happening outside.
And, you know, that might also be one of the reasons why the hyperspace ribbons are the way they are. They might mimic the actual path of the train or something.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's how authentic they are.
Yeah.
That could be. But I imagine not the same distance, though, because I imagine you can't get anywhere in space in the same distance of going on the Orient Express. I don't know how long the Orient Express was, but definitely not more than the circumference of the circumference of the Earth. So that's not very far.
I don't know. I don't know much about the Orient Express.
You know, yeah. I'm ashamed to say I don't know much either.
I know I did. I looked it up on Wikipedia a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And I found out, I was kind of surprised that it only shut down fairly recently.
Really?
Yeah, it shut down in 2009.
Wow. That's like telegrams. Like, you could send a telegram really recently, like up to really recently. And, like, it would actually, like, be delivered, like, in your mail or whatever, I think. If memory serves. Like, yeah, wow, that's weird. So, like, I guess the Orient Express was still useful then? Is that what we're going on here?
I don't know.
Well, like, yeah.
I think they like trains more in Europe than they like them here.
That's a good point. I think they do. Well, because they don't have the nice big superhighways or whatever that we got, that they had to rip up whole cities to put in.
I suppose not.
Not whole cities, but yeah, they don't quite love cars so much in Europe as we do here, or seem to.
Yeah, but it looks to me like, according to Wikipedia, the original endpoints of it were Paris and Istanbul.
I have to say, I don't, even with that information, I can't mentally picture how much of a distance that is.
I suppose I can't either. Oh well.
Yeah. I do know that Istanbul was Constantinople.
This is true.
So I imagine, even if it were to simulate the actual path, it would have to be greatly elongated.
Mm-hmm.
Or on a loop. Like, they duplicate the path, but they just kind of loop it.
Yeah, you know, it's not incredibly clear to me whether these people are going somewhere, or whether they think that they're going somewhere, or whether they're just having some kind of, like, experience. Like, it's just like an amusement ride.
Well, right, like, yeah, and that's kind of the thing, because, like, when you have the space Titanic, that's like they're on an actual cruise. And
that's made very clear in the episode.
Right. And that's like a thing. Like, people do go on cruises, which is basically just a boat going in a circle, or kind of like a circuit, I guess, because the boat eventually has to get back to where it was. But with this, people generally don't ride trains for fun. Like, they don't just get on a train to go on like like a 3-hour tour or whatever.
A 3-hour tour. I mean, but that's because of the practicalities of trains in our world. I mean,
right.
if you're going to make a giant space cruise line that's shaped like a boat,
right.
you might as well make one that's shaped like a train or shaped like, I don't know, like a gigantic sports car, or you can make it shaped as long as you can make it shaped like that. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just make it shaped like anything that might be fun to shape it like?
That's a good point. You could shape it like a planet. You could just have like a Death Star. In fact, maybe, I mean, yeah, you don't think someone came up with an idea to make a Death Star, that just like, I don't know, tours around for a bit and like drops you back off?
I'm sure someone did.
So all these scientists are just like lured on here. Like they couldn't be going anywhere though. Like this would almost have to be like just some sort of.
Well, maybe they think they're going somewhere. Maybe there's a place where they think they're trying to get to, but it's never specified, is it?
I don't think so. Yeah, they never like. Well, and there is discussion of like stations because the captain very early on in the episode talks to after the second murder. He says something about like, if anyone breathes a word of this, you're gonna get off at the next station with termination papers in hand or whatever. So that implies that there are stations and that you can get off at them. So I guess it must at least partially function as a transportation service. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, and it could just be that all these scientists or whatever think they're going to like some, I don't know, scientist convention.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, I don't know, I guess you could say like, oh yeah, the convention just out of the kindness of their hearts paid for your ticket, and it's on this or theme train for that replicates the Orient Express.
And you have to dress a particular way.
It's impractical, but this is just what you do for free tickets.
Are you looking forward to Flatline?
I am looking forward to Flatline, and I guess the joke is that, or the twist is that Flatline is supposed to be like, or at least it's generally used to talk about like, like a heart monitor, like, oh, he flatlined or whatever, because whatever. And now I'm guessing, because this is like the trailer implied that there's like dimensions, and like there's people being sucked out of dimensions, and like they're in 2 dimensions on like the wall or whatever. Obviously, or I guess that's supposed. I guess what I'm saying is the title is a pun, because they're flat now, and I guess ultimately they must get down to 1 dimension, which would be a line. So it's a flat line.
Could be. Yeah, I don't know what to expect. It's the same writer who wrote this.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
Yeah. He did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, which I didn't read any of.
Me neither.
But he did it after Mummy aired. So I might go back and read some of that at some point, but because it could be interesting. But yeah, apparently my understanding is that kind of like how Neil Cross wrote Hyde, and then they liked it so much that they asked him to write Rings of Akaton. In this case, Jamie Matheson wrote Flatline, and they liked it so much they had him write this.
Oh, okay. So
maybe Flatline will be even better, or maybe not.
Well, yeah. I mean, that stands to reason. I was worried you were going to say it's the other way around, and then I was going to be worried for how next week was going to be. But no, yeah. I mean, like, all right. So if this was the episode that he cobbled together after being asked to write another one, then yeah, I'm thinking that his original work must be, or that it sounds like it's going to be really good. Or to me, and it definitely sounds like an interesting concept. Or just like the discussion of dimensions, kind of. Dimensions, to my mind, are fascinating enough on their own. Like I would not mind a Doctor Who episode that explores them.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's going to be related in some way to the TARDIS.
Right, because does have relative dimensions, and
it does,
which are in space. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, could be. But yeah, well, and it's kind of funny. I don't know. It seems like, because it seems like the way that people are depicted on like the walls and stuff almost seems like, I don't know, like Banksy art.
It reminds me of there's a Legend of Zelda game called A Link Between Worlds.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Where you pop between 2D and 3D by you can turn yourself into a drawing on the wall.
Ah.
Yeah, so it reminds me of that.
There you go.
I hope it, but it also kind of reminds me of Fear Her.
All right, yeah.
Because people turn it into drawings and whatnot.
Yeah. You don't want that.
I don't.
Right, you don't want the sequel to Fear Her. You don't want that.
Fear Her 2, Fear Harder.
Right, we can't have that. We just can't. Cannot have that.